Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're peeling back the layers on elite performance, but maybe not in the way you'd expect.
Right. We're not really focusing on the teams that had that smooth, perfect ride to victory.
No, we're looking at the ones who had to fight tooth and nail, the ones who learned their biggest lessons while, staring failure right in the face.
And that's often where the most interesting psychology is.
Absolutely. Our mission today is a deep dive into the psychology of a turnaround, and we're using this single, incredibly candid source. We're calling it the stride of confidence.
And it features the insights of this key figure, Prescott, on navigating pressure, really poor starts, and most importantly, that late-season recovery.
Yeah, and the central insight we're trying to unpack is this. Why is momentum built on overcoming failure often, more valuable than momentum from an easy, untested start?
It's such a counterintuitive idea.
It really is. And we have to start right where the source begins, which is with this admission of crisis. This team, and this is a direct quote from Prescott, let their elimination get too close for comfort.
So this wasn't just a slump. This was a near-death experience, professionally speaking.
Exactly. This wasn't a minor tweak. It was a complete reconstruction under threat. Okay, let's unpack this, starting with failure.
And that framing is just so essential. I mean, if you don't establish the stakes, the recovery doesn't really matter, does it?
Not at all.
Prescott's admission that they were nearly eliminated confirms they weren't just mediocre. They were, for a time, fundamentally broken. He just spells it out with painful clarity. We didn't play good ball early.
And that's the launch pad, right?
Yeah.
That failure is what makes everything that comes after it so profound. He pinpoints the exact moment things started to click. He says, now we're starting to catch our stride. And when we talk about catching a stride in performance psych, it's this move away from a really high cognitive load.
Where everything feels forced.
Totally forced. Anxious. You're thinking about every single action. And you move into a state of flow. The effort is still there, but the output feels natural, almost intuitive.
It's like the mechanism is shifting from, grinding metal to being smoothly lubricated. But the real deep dive here is how they found that lubrication.
Okay.
Prescott immediately links that stride, not to just, executing old plans better, but to this profound self-discovery. He says, we're starting to figure out who we are on not just offense, but defense and as a team.
Which is fascinating, that idea of operational identity being discovered late.
Yes. It suggests that the team they thought they were in the beginning, that kind of aspirational identity, was completely failing them.
I see what you're saying. So an organization or a team might try to impose an identity that just doesn't fit the actual people or the environment. It becomes artificial. Can you give us a more tangible example of that?
Oh, absolutely. Think about a startup or maybe an engineering team. They might decide, in the abstract, that their identity is agile innovators.
Right. You hear that all the time.
All the time. So they try to force rapid iteration, constant experimentation. But what if their internal culture, their actual DNA, is structured for stability, for risk mitigation, and for deep, slow-burn technical work?
It's a total mismatch.
It's a complete mismatch. Forcing agility just leads to sloppy work, burnout, miscommunication. And for Prescott's team, playing bad ball early likely meant they were trying to run a system that looked great on a whiteboard but just wasn't congruent with the players they had.
They were trying to be a team instead of figuring out what they were capable of being.
That's it, precisely. The early struggle was actually necessary because it just violently exposed that gap between their aspiration and their reality. They had to shed the identity they tried to adopt and find the one that actually worked under pressure.
And he emphasizes the synchronization, right? Not just offense, but defense and as a team.
Yes, and that's critical. If your offense has an authentic identity of, say, high-speed aggression, but your defense is hesitant and conservative, those two groups just cancel each other out.
Emotionally and strategically.
Exactly. The moment they started playing good ball was the moment those two identities merged into one cohesive operational reality. That unification, well, that's the definition of resilience.
That makes the turnaround feel so much more significant than just, a lucky streak. And this brings us to the core of the source, this really counterintuitive idea.
Yeah.
Prescott explicitly says he prefers this situation, this hard-won late momentum, over being on other teams that started off hot and are now trying to figure out what you got to do to get back on the horse.
Which is just a massive reframe.
It is. Here's where it gets really interesting for you, the listener. Why is recovering from a slump and building that late momentum actually preferable to just dominating from the start.
Well, it's critical because it challenges the narrative we all just, instinctively subscribe to, that consistency and early success are everything.
Right.
But when you look at performance sustainability, early dominance comes with some tremendous psychological risks.
Like complacency, which is the obvious one. But let's dig into that a little more.
Complacency for sure, but it's more specific than that. It's a complete lack of adaptive muscle memory. When a team starts hot, they often haven't been forced to solve really hard problems against tough competition.
Their wins might be a bit hollow.
Exactly. Maybe their schedule was easy, or their new tactics just hadn't been figured out by opponents yet, so they're statistically successful, but they are fundamentally untested.
And when that adversity finally hits.
When it finally hits those hot teams, a key injury, an opponent that shuts down their main strategy, they just don't have the psychological tools for recovery. They never learned how to win when things were going wrong.
Wow. So the team that started hot is suddenly trying to reinvent itself under pressure, which is exactly what Prescott's team was forced to do early on. But the hot team is doing it in crisis mode, which just compounds all the anxiety.
Exactly right. Whereas Prescott's team, having already hit rock bottom, they know exactly what doesn't work. Their current stride is built on this really clear, data-driven understanding of their own weaknesses.
They tested their foundation in the most painful way possible and found out it would hold.
And so that late momentum is inherently more stable. It's founded on proven resilience.
And what's the emotional feedback from that resilience? Prescott uses a word that seems, well, almost contradictory given the high stakes. He says this current phase is fun.
This is where we see the shift from a threat response to a state of mastery. Think about the team playing bad ball early. They were likely operating in a state of high anxiety.
Constant stress.
Constant stress. And anxiety triggers a threat response, right? It narrows your focus, it increases your cognitive load, and it forces you to make decisions based on avoiding mistakes rather than pursuing opportunities. That is the opposite of fun.
Right, that's just survival.
It's survival. When they found their authentic identity and caught their stride, they eliminated the internal threat, that fear of failure, the confusion. So the cognitive load drops dramatically. The fun is just the expression of a flow state.
So it's the joy of operating efficiently with a shared purpose.
Even when the external stakes are incredibly high, the fun isn't reckless. It's the operational dividend of having solved that internal confusion. The daily process itself becomes reinforcing rather than draining.
That makes so much sense. So that momentum, it needs fuel to keep going under all that pressure.
It does.
And Prescott points to two inseparable ingredients. The first is internal, having the confidence, just the core belief that they can do it.
But he immediately pairs that with something external.
Yes, the right guys in the locker room. So
Yeah.
confidence by itself apparently is not enough to sustain the stride. Why is that?
Well, confidence without situational awareness can quickly devolve into reckless overconfidence.
Which is just as dangerous as anxiety.
Absolutely. It leads to shortcuts, to assumptions, a failure to prepare for specific threats. The right guys, in Prescott's definition, are the cultural anchors.
Okay.
They are the ones who internalize that confidence, but they couple it with this accurate read of the environment. Prescott says these are the guys who understand where we are and understand that this is the most important time of the year.
So it's this blend of self-belief with a shared acute awareness of the situation. The confidence is the power, and the right guys are the ones who calibrate it, who provide the gravity check.
Perfectly put. These people don't just feel good about themselves, they accept the gravity of the moment without being paralyzed by it, and they translate that confidence into meticulous shared preparation.
And that preparation itself becomes the differentiator. How does that actually look in practice? Because Prescott ties it all together. He says their confidence and their understanding show up in their daily prep, and throughout the week is fun.
Yeah, think about two kinds of preparation. The team that played bad ball early was doing corrective prep. This painful, exhausting effort to fix flaws they didn't even understand.
Their practice sessions must have been so tense.
Oh, probably awful. Focused on punishment and remediation. But the team that found its stride, powered by the right guys, they're engaged in what I'd call mastery preparation.
Okay.
They're no longer fixing basic structural problems. They are reinforcing a proven, fun, synchronized identity. Their daily prep is enjoyable because they see the immediate, rewarding connection between that focused effort and their powerful performance when it counts.
So they're sharpening a known effective tool, not desperately trying to rebuild a broken one.
Exactly. And that makes the entire process self-reinforcing. The resilience they built in that early failure enables the confidence is channeled by the right people, and that focus makes the hard work of preparation enjoyable, which sustains the momentum.
It's a complete closed loop of high performance.
It is. And if we synthesize this whole progression for you, the listener, I think the biggest takeaway is this. Success is a function of your psychological foundation, not just your output metrics.
Right. The numbers don't tell the whole story.
Not at all. Early momentum often just masks untested flaws, which means the foundation is weak. But late momentum, forged through adversity and that painful discovery of identity, builds a foundation of tested resilience. The team that knows how to recover is just better prepared for sustained pressure than the team that never had to.
So what does this all mean for us? I think it means we have to fundamentally reframe how we see failure in our own projects, our careers, our teams.
Yeah.
The greatest confidence doesn't come from avoiding the dip. It comes from proving you can recover from it.
And using that struggle.
Using it as a catalyst to find your genuine, resilient operational identity. Prescott's team essentially weaponized their early setbacks.
And that reframing leads us to a final, maybe provocative thought, particularly for anyone listening who might be enjoying an unchallenged hot start right now. If building truly sustainable success requires finding out who you are under pressure, we have to ask, what aspects of your successful early process might actually be masking a fundamental misunderstanding of your team's authentic identity?
Just waiting to be exposed at the absolute worst possible moment.
The absolute worst moment.
Look closely at your early wins. Are they based on tested resilience, or are they based on untested aspiration? That's a question worth exploring. Thank you for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.